Hello, everybody. Tyrone the God 3 here, and here with me, I've got Alpha Eevee.
Hello.
Hello. And the reason that we are here today is because way back in September 25th, 2018, My Hero Academia had a movie known as My Hero Academia 2 Heroes that was released in the US. There was dubbed versions of it, and I think in certain theaters there were subbed versions of it. So My Hero Academia is obviously a very popular shonen anime, and with its movie release, we felt like it was a good time to talk about it since the movie has been on for a while, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. And since Eevee is here with me and he's seen the movie, we're the only two out of our group to have seen the movie up to this point, at least at the time of making this video. So we decided we're going to have a review about it. So we're going to start things off by me giving a plot summary. It's going to be a really fast plot summary, and then after that we will go ahead and discuss some impressions, things we liked, things we didn't like, things that could have been improved on, things that were done very correctly, some nice trivia aesthetics, and then finally we'll just close it out with how we feel about the movie or our personal experience when going to that theater. So without further ado, you ready, Eevee?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Alright, so let's start off with the plot summary, which I'll give really fast. So, the movie begins basically with a flashback of All Might, the hero that's basically known worldwide, but at this point he's still in his young days, which means he has eyes for some reason, is able to fight off these villains. But he's able to fight off these villains with the help of his partner, who is a support hero known as David Shields. Because the two work together so well, it's clear that their friendship was going to be something that was going to be an element used in the movie later on. Meanwhile, we cut to All Might and Deku traveling to Island. Island is basically home to various scientists who work hard in order to make support items that can help out heroes with various quirks that fight in the world of My Hero Academia. Because they are all going to this giant meeting that will break the scientific world of history, Deku is completely excited and is fangasming all over the place. Once they get to Island, they're able to meet David Shields, but before that they meet up with David Shields' daughter, known as Melissa Shields. Melissa Shields is 17, and yes, she's 17, so back up, but Melissa is 17, and she is basically known to create lots of mechanical items as well. When she tours Deku around, he ends up meeting up with David Shields, and Deku geeks out for a while. At this point, though, they have to get ready for the party. David Shields does know of All Might's secret, where his powers are diminishing as time goes by, and this makes David Shield very worried. Meanwhile, we cut to Melissa and Deku as Melissa states that she's been inventing for a long time. She even invented a gauntlet that'll allow Deku to end up fighting things without hurting himself using the One for All power. So, with that all being... Go ahead, Eevee.
To fully utilize his power.
To fully utilize his power, basically with no recoil damage. So after that point, though, when they're traveling around the entire island, Deku ends up meeting the other students. More namely, he ends up meeting up with... basically, I want to say the main ones, the ones that get the most screen time: Todoroki, Bakugo, Momo, or Oroka-chan, Kirishima, Mineta, and Ilima. So basically they're the ones that got the most screen time, so they're the ones that are basically going to be the main players in this movie. When they all meet up again with each other, they've all gotten personal invitations in order to show up to the party. Once they got personal invitations to show up to the party is about to start, and they all get dressed up and ready to go. But before they can make it into the party, All Might is about to begin his speech, and things start to go a little downhill. At this point, we see that a villain named Wolfram has his goons basically immobilize all of the major pro heroes up so that they're unable to do any acts of heroism while he sets the place up hostage. His goal is to grab the machinery necessary in order to get the scientific project that'll allow you to use a quirk basically with no drawbacks. So when they go to put everybody hostage, it's up to Deku and the others to basically infiltrate the entire island security so that they can bypass it, so that they can get to Wolfram, so that they can shut the security system off and thus free all the other heroes, allowing them in order to save the day. Melissa knows the place in and out, so they're able to get guides from there. They end up meeting a lot of obstacles. Kirishima and Bakugo end up meeting up with the conflict because they were late, terribly late, to the party. And they end up fighting off against the machinery. They end up meeting up against Wolfram. Deku fights off against Wolfram, but he's unable to beat him with just his own powers. Melissa's able to shut off the security in time, which means All Might gets to be free. All of the other heroes fight off the rest of the guards and everything like that. All Might then, once he's free, ends up fighting off against Wolfram, but he can't beat him by himself. It turns out that Wolfram's powers to bend metal, and he has the power to steal powers thanks to All for One. And thus the problem becomes 10 to 11 real quick. And after that point, All Might's gonna need some help. Deku ends up using the gauntlet that Melissa made for him in order to use his quirk without any drawbacks. The two work together at maximum percent. They're able to defeat Wolfram and save David. Also, David was behind this technically the whole time because he wanted to stage a crime just so that they can get the machinery. But it turns out that David Shield's butler was behind it the whole time. But then turns out that Wolfram was just evil to be evil, so he ends up betraying both of them. And Wolfram thought he had it all, but Deku and All Might end up beating him. The machine that allows Deku to use his all for one power, his one for all powers, ends up breaking and is not able to use forever. And at that point, the movie basically ends with them parting ways, and that's about it. So that's basically the gist of the movie. And with that all being said, let me ask you this, Eevee. What were your first impressions when you started watching the movie?
All right. Well, actually, before we begin with that, we should have advised the audience earlier that yes, this is spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen the movie.
Right, and I will put a timestamp on the area of the movie just to give you all a warning when that's going to happen. But yeah, that is the gist of the movie. If you don't want to be spoiled, just click on the timestamp that I send on the video, and yeah, that's basically how we get from there to there. It's a nice movie. It's a really great movie. It's an hour and a half. Eevee, like I said, what were your first impressions when you watched the movie?
Right. So I had a bit of high expectations for this movie, knowing that previously, prior to the release within the U.S. theaters, they had the first showing at one of the anime expos, I think in L.A. And based off the tweets that I saw for My Hero Academia 2 Heroes, a lot of people loved it. They rated it a 10 out of 10. The action, the comedy, everything that you know about My Hero Academia was just top notch, except packed in a 1 hour and 30-minute movie. So, based on the reviews that I saw for this movie, I wanted to go check it out for myself and see if what they said was true. So, I ended up going on first the dub movie, and based off my first impressions, they were right. It was really an amazing movie, and it's something that I would definitely recommend for My Hero Academia fans, who are looking for basically an hour 30 packed episode. And and after that, I ended up seeing the sub version a few days later, just so I could get some comparisons between the two. But anyways, when it comes to the movie, first impressions, I really liked how some of the characters, the ones who got the more screen time, like Jiro, Bakugo, Hiroshima, I really liked the way they contributed to the movie with the plot. And with the introduction of these new characters, Melissa Shield, David Shield, and of course the villain name,
Wolfram.
I believe his Wolfram. Yeah, I thought they were really well executed. When you really get a sense of their personality, their background, and especially a lot of people really like Melissa Shield as a character. Once they saw this girl, a lot of people were raving about this this new best girl.
Waifu.
No surprise that waifu, yes. People are now starting to ship her with Deku, which is no surprise there.
Yeah.
I personally support it, but nothing beats Deku and Uraraka in the end. But other than that, the animation was really great, which really got me at the edge of my seat. and the audience were really into the movie as well, since they were all My Hero Academia fans, and they couldn't expect nothing less from it. So,
Right.
yeah, so
Well, I gotta say, because like one thing that I really praise the movie for now, and we'll get into a little bit of this later, but I do, like you said before, I do praise the introduction of the movie exclusive characters. Wolfram being the antagonist, David Shield being basically, I'll say he's the pseudo antagonist slash support character, and then we've got Melissa Shields playing the role of support, major support for Deku. I liked how each of the characters were fully utilized. None of them felt out of place. It definitely felt like they belonged with the group and the overall conflict that Deku and the rest of the students had to deal with when they were trying to save David Shields and save the other heroes from the hostage situation.
right.
Again, I watched the movie dubbed. I did not get the chance to watch it subbed, which is weird because I watch My Hero Academia subbed. I don't watch it dubbed. So this was definitely a new experience for me because I got to hear what these characters sound like. I know Funimation was behind the dubbing of My Hero Academia. I just never got to hear them in their English voices. I think I heard Deku a couple of times because they had trailers for the movie, so I heard his voice a couple of times, but I did not get the chance to hear a lot of them. I know, like, Mineta having a lisp was something that I did not expect, because in the sub version, I don't think he has one.
Right. And of course, one of the most famous voice actors in the dub, Christopher R. Saban, well known for voicing Vegeta, and
all of the Dragon Ball Z cast.
Right. He did a great job in that, and
he was All Might, right?
Yes, he was All Might.
Yeah.
And one of the few reasons why I'm here with Tyrone as well is to give insight on the comparisons between English and the Japanese sub version, well, English sub version of the movie. And when it comes to the voice acting, both versions I think delivered a great job when it comes to the passion, the emotion that were put into this work. I think each and every single voice actor that was involved in this movie did a great job to deliver top entertainment for every My Hero Academia fan out there.
Right. And from what I was gonna say, go ahead, Eevee.
Yeah. No, you go ahead. I forgot what I was going to say, but I remember.
And from what I remember, My Hero Academia is one of those animes that's simul-dubbed, right? Like, that means it's dubbed. The dub episode comes out the same day the sub episode comes out, right?
Yes. I want to say yes for the most part.
And yeah.
I just want to say, when it comes to the dub, because I personally watched My Hero Academia dubbed before I jumped into the sub, which is what I watch right now. And not all anime English dubbed are bad. Some of them you can't really bear to watch simply because the voice actors don't really have that oomph in their voice. But My Hero Academia English dubbed, it's one of the few versions of the anime that I can really tolerate because of these voice actors. They really do a good job. So it's really hard to compete between the Japanese and the English versions of the movie. So I think both voice actors did a really great job.
Right, you could tell the cast had a lot of fun dubbing the voices of the characters in My Hero Academia. So it's good to see that they're having fun while they're doing it. You can tell when they're doing it too. Let me ask this, Eevee, while you were watching, what's one of the things in the movie that you liked in particular? Like, what was your favorite moment in this movie?
Now, without a doubt, one of my favorite moments was the last battle against Wolfram, because, once we finally got to that climax, there were a lot of plot twists. Just when you thought it was over, bam, they hit you with a plot twist. Just when you thought this is over, bam, they hit you with another one. Honestly, it was probably one of the best final battles from what I've seen in the anime. Only because, Wolfram, you thought he was working alone, but then you realized that Wolfram, he was hired by David Shield. But then you realized that Wolfram is an actual villain that was hired by David Shield, only to be working for All for One. So there was just a completely mix of different plot
twists. It was a lot of twists, in that moment.
And not to mention Wolfram, I think he did a really great job as a villain. You can see just how how sadistic and how brutal this guy is. You know, he even
Right.
hesitated. He didn't even hesitate to kill David Shields' butler or his assistant
Right.
right on the spot when he delivered the briefcase. So Wolfram, you know, he's one of my favorite villains in the series out there so far.
Yeah, and I'm going to be on the other end of the spectrum here. I was a bit intimidated a little bit by all of the twists that were happening at that one scene because it was just a lot to take in, and it felt like a lot of explaining that had to be done in that one moment. Where Wolfram's like, oh, David Shields was like, I was doing this to save All Might. I was, I was betraying him to save All Might, and then all of a sudden, it's like the butler's like, well, we could have been big. We could have made a lot of money, even though we already have a lot of money. And then the villain's like, well, I'm a villain, and villains do what villains do. However, I will say this because Wolfram, being a movie exclusive villain, he didn't have much time to develop, obviously, as much as villains we already know, but he made up for it with his brutality. The fact that he was able to kill and without a second thought makes for a really good villain. A villain is someone who can do sudden actions that immediately shake emotions, and shooting that butler so quickly without a second thought proves that he is a seasoned villain.
You know, I can someone compare him to My Hero Academia villains. I don't remember which one, but basically he can he can manipulate his muscles during the camp arc.
Yeah.
I don't remember what's his name.
Muscular.
Muscular. There we go. So he's in a way like that. You know, he doesn't hesitate to hold back in his actions, and you know, like you said, Wolfram, we didn't get enough of some of his background in the movie. But same.
You got an hour and 30 minutes to work with, though, right?
Yeah, so it's under so there's that you had to consider. So but they make it up with that brutality that he displayed in the movie. So that actually helped him out when it comes to how he stands out as a character.
Right. So I now if I had to pick one of my personal things that I liked about the movie, it's a small thing, but I do like it. I like the divvy up of characters. I like the use of characters. Like, not every class 1A student was used here, obviously, but the ones that weren't in the movie the ones that weren't active players in the movie were still in the movie. They still showed up and background scenes. They were some of them were at restaurants, some of them were in a hotel, some of them were hanging out just on the island doing normal stuff. And it saddens me to see that certain characters didn't get to show up. I know the guy Go ahead.
I wanted my Froppy to be in.
Yeah, she's even in the promotional poster, so I'm trying to figure out why she's not in the movie. But I mean, she's in the movie, but she's not an active character in the movie. I think they used up the characters that I know are probably the most popular, and Mineta is comic relief. So that's how he unfortunately got a pass. And then you see, I was sad that the guy who controls shadows wasn't in it, but it's nighttime, so I guess it would have been a whole nother problem. There was just so many characters in the background, but I do appreciate that they did at least have the decency to show them, to the very least.
Right, because they're part of the show. They need at least you consider it an excuse to just include them in the movie just for audience appeal?
I think it was audience appeal and just to broaden the environment, because one thing I don't like in movies or just in anime in general is when you have a select cast of characters and the rest of the background is sort of barren. The fact that the other heroes were there made the environment expand a lot more. This lets you know that the party that they were going to was a big deal because everybody showed up. And obviously everyone wasn't active, but My Hero Academia has a large cast of characters, and I feel like that the writers didn't want to blow their load on all of the characters at once, because that's a lot. First of all, they had to do a stealth mission, basically, for this movie, and it would have been too much if they had too many characters in at once. So I guess they just used the characters that was only necessary, and I'm glad that the writers were able to divvy up which characters were going to be used and which ones won't. Plus, this gives full open opportunity for them to go ahead and have second movies and third movies that use different characters. Oh, we got a movie that uses these characters now. Oh, we got a movie that uses this character for this movie. You know, just splits it up between each set now. Like Class 1A can be used in various different ways because of that. Like even in, and I know this is going a little bit into the show, but I even remember in the provisional exams, the one guy that can control tape or whatever, he was used a lot in that one with Deku, and I was shocked because the tape dude wasn't that noticeable until, you know, around this time. I think they used Kaminari too in this one, I believe. The electric dude.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, especially that tape dude. I think they only introduced him and the guy who gets muscular when eating sugar. We didn't get introduced until those two characters until after they defeated Wolfram in that one shot.
Right.
So it's one shot, but you know what? It's better having there than nothing at all, because I'm pretty sure while they're not that too popular, they are still iconic to some audiences.
Right, and I'm sure if you're watching this, if your favorite character wasn't used in the movie, don't threat. They at least show them, and trust me, I'm sure they'll be used in some movie. That's one of the beauties of My Hero Academia, is that they can afford to divvy up characters like that. But let me ask this, Eevee, what was one thing you didn't like or felt needed improvement in the movie?
Well, it doesn't bother me too much, but I do sort of question it. The way the supporting characters were introduced, Uraraka, Momo, and Todoroki and Hiroshima. Don't you think it felt a bit random, to have them in this island just because it's because Momo, my father owned a stock from Island, and Todoroki, my father was part of this, and I don't know, it just felt so completely random to me. But
I get it, and I think it was just like we need an excuse to have the characters on this.
Exactly.
I feel like it would have been a lot easier to just be like a field trip. We're going to Island, right?
Yeah, because I initially thought that prior to seeing this movie, I was thinking to myself, well, how did these students get into this island? Maybe All Might changed his mind, and instead of bringing Deku, he brought some select students from his class to the island. And I thought to myself, it'll feel too weird and too random just to include them in there for some random purposes.
Yeah, like Bakugo got to be on it because he won the sports festival. It felt like they had to string a lot of reasons why they were here together when they could have just been like, field trip, everyone is invited to Island, and just to make it easier, separate with groups of certain teachers. So like these students can go with this teacher, these students can go with this teacher, and Deku ended up going with All Might,
I do sort of question. Sorry to cut you off there.
Go ahead.
I do sort of question how Kaminari and Mineta ended up with a part-time job on the island.
Right. Only to basically serve as like servants, and then once they did such a good job, now they're allowed to go inside.
Yeah, so you know where I'm coming from. It's kind of random to me, but we had see them regardless, so
right. I'll tell you, one of the things that kind of bugged me about the movie is after we got the whole flashback scene, and I get it what they're trying to do. They're trying to give a quick recap to those who probably never watched My Hero Academia before, but there's this part in the movie where they explain quirks, they explain UA, they do all this explanation, and I'm just like, why? Like, at this point, if you haven't watched My Hero Academia up to this point, why would you start with the movie? Like, I'm trying to see why in the world you would do that. And maybe it's for the parents or like other audience members who never seen the show. But again, that just begs the question. The only people who are watching this movie for real, well, most of the people that are watching this movie for real are people who have watched the show. That was the whole reason why. So it's just like, go ahead, Eevee.
I forgot to bring this up. Yes, if you're a My Hero Academia fan, I will watch it, but don't watch it until I want to say around season 2 or between season 2 and season 3, because they do bring up some references in that movie that took place around that time.
And for those of y'all who have watched the shows, pretty much this movie takes place after they end up doing the exams where they have to fight off against their teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So, after the last test, I think was Deku and Bakugo's test against All Might, after that test, you can watch the movie, because that's around the time the movie takes place.
Right.
But it's just like, I don't know why they did the recap. The recap felt like a really slow step as to the whole, I feel no reason why they had to recap an entire history of My Hero Academia just to catch up people who should already have seen the show up to this point. But,
right.
Go ahead, Eevee.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was done.
Okay. No, but I don't have anything else to that.
Okay, so moving on to the next topic then. Go ahead, Eevee.
I'm sorry. I sorry to cut you off there, but I just remembered something I actually wanted to mention about one of the few things that I like about this movie, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So, another thing that I do like, which I think is one of the, one of the few main focuses of the movie, is connection between Midoriya and Melissa. You see, you check out the movie and you realize how Miss Izuku and Melissa have one thing in common, and it's that they were born quirkless.
Right.
Of course, Midoriya did end up, getting the quirk from All Might, but Izuku and Melissa did end up forming a special connection between each other because of the fact that they were born quirkless, and Midoriya looked up to Melissa and supported Melissa because she wanted to be like the man that Izuku and Melissa admires.
Right.
So, and I really do like Melissa's role in this movie. Had it not been for her, Midoriya wouldn't have gotten anywhere when he has to defeat the villain, getting around the tower. What do you think about the relationship between Midoriya and Melissa? Because I think it's one of the few things that I do like about the movie.
Honestly, now the thing is, I do like the fact that Melissa's whole thing is that she's quirkless, because it makes her role as support a lot more satisfying when she's doing her role as support. The problem I have though with the fact that she is quirkless is Midoriya and her have something in common, but I don't feel like there was enough time in the movie to really develop that bond. Deku, all that Deku does is go, oh, she's just like me. She was born without a quirk. But I guess it's the fact that Deku got a quirk inherited that kind of puts a small little gap between them. Not big enough of a gap to separate the two characters, but it's still big enough to be like, oh, there's no reason for us to harping on this anymore because I have a quirk now. Granted, it's a given a quirk. It's a hand-me-down quirk, but it's a quirk nonetheless. Where Melissa, she has no quirk, and I guess the idea was to show that even if you don't have a quirk, you can still make a lot of a difference. And I kind of wish that the movie had harped on that a little bit more between Deku and her versus just, oh, we're going to talk about it that one time when we're in the lab, when we're in her room, and then we're going to completely drop it afterwards.
Right.
Because I like it. I like the idea that it gave the two characters something similar, but at the same time, I don't feel like it really changed the dynamic of the movie. I mean, it helps Melissa, but I don't think it helps Deku much now that he does have the quirk. I mean, I think it's nice. I think it does show that there are people out there without quirks who are making a big difference here, but it didn't. The whole island is full of people, scientists, who are trying to help other heroes that are already out doing hero work. So I guess the inclusion of no quirk was just sort of like an add-on in terms of support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Eevee, let me ask you this one. Obviously, and I think you answered a little bit of this before, but going to the movie, how was the audience? Because when it comes to anime movies, the audience is always to me like the most interesting thing about watching an anime movie, because they have done the same thing you've done. They've sat down every Saturday or maybe binge watched every week or something like that. They developed a bond with this show the same way you did. So this movie is what brought you all together. How was the audience in the theater that you went to?
Yeah, aside from the movie, one of the other few reasons why I wanted to come was to share the experience with the audience, people who have the same love and passion for the anime series. And heading in, when I was off to watch the movie, I was thinking to myself, like, man, like I'm expecting the audience to, be so emotional, show compassion for the movie when they, when they show awesome moments in the movie, but. This is just from my experience. I'm not going to generalize my audience with the rest of the other audience, because I know that there are a lot of audiences out there that have different reactions towards the movie.
Mm-hmm.
When I first watched the dub, a lot of people, sorry, I'm losing my words, but they were very reacted to the comedy. I think My Hero Academia, for an action anime, does a really great job with the comedy, and there were some moments that did make me laugh, and the entire room laughed. But other than that, they weren't really too reactive with some certain parts, especially towards the last battle when Midoriya and All Might decided to work together and to fight up against Wolfram. I don't know, they weren't too reactive when they were going all out, which kind of disappointed me, because I wanted a unique movie experience, but hey, I guess
Did you watch it opening night?
No, I watched it on the opening week. And when I went to watch the sub, the audience in there was a little bit more reactive, but they still weren't too reactive. Once again, because I already saw the movie, I was hoping that the audience would be more reactive to some of the action, some of the more awesome moments, especially towards the last battle. There was a slight improvement from my experience, but not so much nonetheless. But at least I had a great experience watching the movie, simply because I was with the audience to share the moments. So
right.
That's my take.
My audience, I watched it opening night, and the audience was I think the audience was really good. They laughed a lot at the comedic moments, mostly laughing at Mineta. Like, I remember there's a moment where Mineta accidentally pulled the wrong door, and it alerted the security, and everybody was like throwing a whole fit, like, oh, what the hell? Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I had that too.
Yeah, and when he I know when Melissa showed up, we had the people who were doing the whole fangasm thing. The movie as a whole, the big battle itself, when they played the You Say Run, the song that usually shows up during the climax of most fights in My Hero Academia.
Of course.
Yeah, when they played that, the audience lost their minds. They were all going like crazy. When Wolfram was shooting people, they were just a lot of people were just like going like, oh, like, just.
Yeah, I had.
Yeah,
they
were very.
That was probably one of my best audience reactions.
Yeah, I had a couple of people just like saying "damn" real loud. Like it's clear that it was clear this audience was very engaged in the plot, and it's good. Maybe because it was opening night. Maybe it's just because these are very dedicated fans. But the audience members were very expressive in the version that I watched when I was at the theater. I was at a fairly old theater too that normally plays plays, but sometimes they play anime movies as well, because it's very hard for some reason for anime movies to show up in the city that I'm in. So when they do show up, it's pretty cool to witness them. I know they lost their minds the most during the fight scenes. The fight scenes were like really big, and they were very Naruto-esque fight scenes.
Oh yeah, the animation there in particular was really great.
Yeah.
And I know, and this didn't happen with my audience. both showings, but I know some people you know cheered their asses out when they saw Izuku and All Might running one next to another, which I thought it was a pretty badass moment, but unfortunately I didn't get much of a reaction from that.
Yeah, I like when Midoriya kicked some of the metal, because it was the first time in this timeline that he's using kicks, so it was kind of like a prelude to his shoot style that he'll get later.
Right.
So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, a lot of people were losing their mind during I guess you would call this the climactic part of the fight, where the giant punch, I think it was the Detroit Smash 100%.
Double Detroit Smash.
Yeah, the father-son Detroit Smash. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great moment in the movie, and a lot of people cheered when the movie was over, and they were clapping and applauding it. So yeah,
of course.
It did a good job. It served its purpose, and the best part is I remember the writer saying that it is part of the plot. Which, okay, that's fine, but it doesn't really need to be either. If it is or isn't, it doesn't matter, because it was just a fun ride. I think this was just a really fun ride movie.
Part of the plot as in movie plot, or
the overall plot?
Oh, okay.
But to me, if it is or isn't canon, it doesn't matter to me. I think it was just a really good experience.
Yeah.
And like one of the things I'm glad of, like, for example, I'm glad Oroko, she didn't I'm glad she didn't get into a like jealous mode with Deku and Melissa. I'm glad they didn't decide to, and I think that's because this show has fully established that they have something going for them. So the movie wasn't focused on that, and I feel like the movie felt like it didn't need to waste time on that subplot. So I'm glad the movie just decided to go ahead and focus on the bigger things.
Yeah, I know there was some shipping moments, and I know some audiences did get some reactions, especially that one moment when Melissa landed on top of Izuku when they reached the other side of a tower.
Mm-hmm.
But geez, what I was going to say. I remember going to the dump showing where Izuku and Melissa were sharing the last moments within the last minutes of the movie, and Uraraka called out to them, and she was like, "Oh, why do you have to ruin it?"
Right. Yeah. But otherwise, let me ask this, Eevee. What are your overall thoughts of this movie then? Like, do you think that this was a good first movie for My Hero Academia? Because I'm sure there's going to be more.
Oh, I'll definitely say it was a great start to the My Hero Academia movie series. In case any of you haven't heard yet, this movie actually made the top 10 grossing anime movies domestically. So knowing that, My Hero Academia, we do have a very huge fan base here in the United States.
Oh, hell yeah!
So, yes, it was no surprise over the fact that My Hero Academia did this well when it comes to the box office. I think My Hero Academia made like the top 5 movies on some days during this opening weekend. So the success was there. I really enjoyed the experience. The movie overall was, I would say, almost a 10 out of 10 for me. I know there are some setbacks, but overall.
So what number would you give it?
I give it like a 9.4 out of 10.
9.4?
Around there, yeah.
All right. For me, the audience turnout was really good. I'm really impressed. I'm gonna just give it a solid 9. I feel like there are some improvements that could have been made. Like that recap thing took a lot of time. Like I can't stress that enough. The recap of how quirks are and the fact that the students go to UA. Like I feel like all that was just fluff, unneeded fluff.
Like I completely understand how especially that particular part where they were introducing the history of quirks and whatnot. They've done it in the anime series too, basically on almost every episode where we live in a world with people born with uncanny abilities, things like that.
Yeah.
Like I understand, like it's part of My Hero Academia. You would sort of expect it in the movie,
right?
But other than that, with the flashbacks and whatnot, I felt like the writers wanted to give some bit of a reflection to the audience. Like I don't know, like they needed some review, or maybe some people have forgotten. But for the most part, I don't think it was completely necessary.
Right, right. Me, the slight thing too also was that it was All Might the whole time situation. I feel like that was a rushed way to get All Might involved, but at the same time, it was okay. I'm like, it didn't. I guess it wasn't forced, and it was resolved so quickly that it didn't matter, so I didn't let it bother me too much. I do feel like it was kind of weird though that they had to go, oh, it was All Might the whole, all for one the whole time that gave him the ability to do that. It's like, okay, sure, why not? But other than that, if you take those two things out, it would be a solid 10. I mean, that could have given you more time to develop the characters or something else other than just like tell us stuff that we kind of already knew.
Right.
Right. But pretty much that's about it. If there's anything else you wanted to add, Eevee.
Yeah. You know, Two Heroes did a really great job.
Right.
Overall, and you know this won't be the only movie that the series will be seeing. So.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely looking forward to future movies. Because you know, My Hero Academia is one of my favorite anime series of all time, and I can't wait to re-experience that same feeling and the atmosphere with the audience once again. And hey, you know, maybe we could finally have a different cast of characters, bring in some characters that other people wanted to see that we didn't get to see in this movie. So, no, I'm very much looking forward to what's next in store for the movie side of My Hero Academia.
Right. Last thing I'll say, and I should have brought this up before, but like with the David Shield situation, I get why he did what he did in terms of like him staging a whole crime, because we didn't really touch on it much, but it's mostly because he just fears that All Might is losing his powers, so he knows that if he loses his powers, they won't have the same type of hero that they had before. But then once he sees Deku is, you know, getting better, he knows that our future is being shaped out by Melissa, Deku, you know, things. It's time to close an old chapter of a book and open a new book. I like that motif. I like the theming of that. Really good. And, you know, really good lesson that wasn't shoved down our throat to end the movie.
Yeah, and you know, you can't really blame David Shield for doing what he did in the movie,
right?
Because you know, he didn't get the whole story as to what happened to All Might, and you know, with Deku, so
right,
you know, you can't really blame him for what he did.
Right, but at the same time, I'm glad that he did decide to take some responsibility for it, and you know, things happen. But with that being said, the movie was really good. The turnout was really good. I think this was a great first impression for our first My Hero Academia movie, or just for anime movies in general. I really hope this kind of encourages America to start having more animated movies like this. I know Dragon Ball is going to have its Broly movie coming out at some point, and I hope this is a good sign for anime movies to come, though, because I want anime movies to be more frequent. More frequent in U.S. theaters, because they're all over the place in Japan, but we barely get any, only in certain rare events. So
and you know, if Two Heroes isn't enough, and if DBC Brawly isn't enough when it comes to your success, then I don't know what else this country has to do in order to bring in more anime movies to the country, because I don't think a lot of people realize how popular anime is.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. I do hope this is a game changer.
Right. So, with that said, you guys, if you haven't seen My Hero Academia yet, I hope we've convinced you to watch it otherwise, or change your minds. If you have watched it, then I hope you enjoyed our thoughts over them. You know, I will... Go ahead.
Yeah. On a side note, for those of you fans in the UK, they will be releasing some theatrical showings, I believe, in December, and the Blu-ray and the official DVD release of My Hero Academia 2 Heroes will be coming out in February 2019. So just a heads up for those of you who haven't seen it.
All right, so yeah, if you enjoyed the movie the first time and want to check it out again or own it, obviously you'll be able to own it in February. Go check it out, and go check it out if you haven't already. Yeah, and just support anime movies and support, hopefully more can come our way if this starts to take off the way it does. But with that being said, I want to thank Alpha Eevee for being on here to help me out in reviewing this movie. The link to his Twitter will be in the description so that you can follow him. As for everything else, like I said, if you ever have any comments about the movie yourself or what your thoughts were, leave them in the comment section below. But with that being said, thank you so much, Eevee, for joining me.
No problem.
All right, and with that said, everybody, see you all then, everybody. Tyrone the God 3 out. Plus Ultra.
Peace and plus Ultra.